Hahnemann has recommended and praised twice in his Organ of Medicine. That is one of the reasons that why I choose next to Hahnemann Boenninghausen. In short, if I say this work, Therapeutic Pocketbook, here Hahnemann has not used, Boenninghausen has not used the word repertory, therapeutic pocketbook. I would like to say, when we will start this discussion, I would like to emphasize this page, and here you will find that this book is in fact showing you two purpose. One is its utilization in bedside, and the more very important work is in the study of materia medica. This part most of the time is missed, the study of materia medica. Friends, good morning to all of you. Happy New Year to all of you. May this new year 2024 bring great health, happiness and prosperity in the life of all of us. In this new year, I plan to share some of my knowledge in the form of sharing to develop all of you towards good homeopathic practice. In this, my endeavor to create, transmute and transmit my learning of homeopathy to all of you, so that we can utilize in our clinical practice the true and original Hahnemannian homeopathic practice. In this endeavor, what I thought that as we have already started learning together organ of medicine, as well as before this I have already started learning and teaching together materia medica, then the third pillar of homeopathy that I plan to begin in this new year. In this process, as we all know that if we talk about homeopathy, the first name came in our mind is Hahnemann, Christian Frederick Samuel Hahnemann, and it is obvious. But who is next? When we came to choose the next after Hahnemann, now the decision become very difficult, and it also reminds me Hippocrates' first aphorism, artis longa vita brevis. If profession allow me to share my point of view, because each and every stalwart has its great contribution, and all are equally important, all are very respected, everyone has their own contribution. Among them, if I talk about who is next, that doesn't mean that the number third is having any less degree of value, so it should not be thought about that. So if in my point of view, if profession allow me to choose next after Hahnemann, then the first name came in my mind, it's my personal opinion, is Boenninghausen. Baron Clemens Maria Franz von Boenninghausen, a child born on 12th March 1785 in a family of lieutenant colonel in the province of Netherlands, Ludwig Ernst von Boenninghausen, and his wife Theresia. Life journey of Boenninghausen is also very adventurous and important. If we just in short, before we discuss the further things about the third pillar of homeopathy, and so I choose this Boenninghausen subject. And some important points in the life history and life lesson of Boenninghausen, that at the age of 12 years he started his schooling in Munster, and at the age of 18 years he entered the Dutch University of Groningen, where he studied the natural history of medicine, and on 13th August 1806 he received a degree, Dr. Untrisk Zurich, in the study of law. Dr. Untrisk Zurich, if we go for the meaning of this word, it says that doctorate in both the law. Doctorate in both the law, what does it mean? That means doctorate in the law of court as well as in the law of church. And at that time, this law degree have two different laws, and one who is having a graduate and who is having their doctorate in the both, that has again a different descriptive way. But after receiving his degree in 1806, he started practicing law, but he was very much inclined in agriculture, and so along with the working in the law of court, he was very much devoted himself for agricultural work. Beside his court's duty, he developed a state agricultural society, and he formed their agricultural society in the part of Germany at the recognition of Prussia province of Rhineland, West Philadelphia, 1816. He was offered a position of president of the Provincial Court of Justice for the West Philadelphia district. As a part of this duty, he was called to act the sole judicial president in the evolution of land in two provinces. During this engagement in agriculture, Boenninghausen got married in 1812, and after marriage he shifted to West Prussia, where he was very much engaged in agricultural work, and because of his devotion he was appointed as director of botanical garden at Munster. And with this engagement in agriculture, he became friendly with A. Wahi. He was also engaged in agricultural work, but in 1827, when Boenninghausen got very ill with some purulent tuberculosis like symptom, and from 1827 to 1828 he was gradually deteriorating in his health, and almost at that time all sorts of treatment was not effective for him. I would like to say that 1828 is one of the very important year in the history of homeopathy. At one place it was the appearance of theory of chronic disease by Hahnemann, and at the same time in the same year there is another coming up of a new stalwarts of homeopathy that was about to arrive yet not arrived. What happened? because of his ill health, he was very much disappointed and he was almost fed up of his recovery. And so he written a letter to his friend, Dr. Vehi, as a relationship in agricultural activities. When he wrote Dr. Vehi, then he asked a detailed picture of his trouble, because at that time Dr. Vehi was a practicing homeopath in his area. But Boenninghausen was not aware of his this hobby. So when Dr. Vehi asked him to give his details of his suffering, he very nicely drafted all the symptoms very minutely and sent to him. In reply, Dr. Vehi prescribed for him pulsatilla. After pulsatilla, he gradually started developing his health. He regained his health and he was finally cured of his purulent tuberculosis. When all the prevalent system of medicine at that time, when Boenninghausen has already tried and he failed, and this new science when cured him, so this become a turning point in the life of Boenninghausen. Boenninghausen, in the very short till now what I have discussed, you can find that he was a person who was always following his passion. He studied law, but he was engaged in agricultural activity. And in that agricultural activity, he has got many things new. He was also many presidential part in many firms, and he developed many new organizations in that. After this recovery, now he got another passion. And this passion, after 1828, he was totally engaged and devoted himself in the study of homeopathy. So this 1828, at one place, development of theory of chronic disease that was published. At one place, it was a development of new stalwarts. But he was so much engaged, but he was not in practice. And because of this, he have lots of literary work in homeopathy. He have studied a lot of literatures. He was finally in communication with Hahnemann, especially since 1830. And I would like to say that all we just know that the first published independent repertory of antisoric remedies came into 1832. So this was the directive of Hahnemann. After his communication, after his labor, he was impressed. I would also like to say that it is him whom Hahnemann has recommended and praised twice in his Organon of Medicine. That is one of the reasons that why I choose next to Hahnemann Boenninghausen. And so with his expertise, with his ardent work, many doctors converted to homeopathy with the influence of Boenninghausen, like Dr. Lutterbach, Dr. Twisting, and many others. Royal order that come in 11th July 1843 that allows Boenninghausen to practice. This 11th July 1843, and you calculate 1828, these was the year when Boenninghausen was very much engaged in literary work. And you will find that most of the writings started from the writings from cholera to this first published repertory and many other important writings is at one place. But after this 1843, when he was engaged in practice, literary work reduced. I will come to discuss a few more things about Boenninghausen afterwards. But as far as life and family is concerned, out of his seven sons, his one son Karl shifted to Paris. Two sons get into the practice of homeopathy, in which Karl then shifted to Paris and he married the adopted daughter of Madame Malini, and so he became a relative of Hahnemann. Among many important contributions, the establishment of an independent repertory was credited to two persons, Dr. Jhar and Dr. Boenninghausen, in which Boenninghausen's work was praised by Hahnemann, and in our profession, his repertory of antisoric was considered as the first published independent repertory. Although as the form of index, it is present in Hahnemann's work also, the first form of Materia Medica that we, although initial form of, you can say, in the shape of infancy or the beginning of repertory like work, we observe in the writings of Hahnemann in his Fragmenta de Viribus as a part of index to the symptoms. But a complete structured form of repertory got published is credited to Boenninghausen. Char has also prepared, but as Hahnemann has praised his work, so Jar's publication was not so much highlighted and followed in the practice as Boenninghausen work was. As we are talking this regarding a study of repertory, and for this we have chosen the sequence of first repertory to study, and the present volume and the work based on the first repertory and its combinations of the first repertory with sequence, and for which we have started Therapeutic Pocket Book, Boenninghausen's Therapeutic Pocket Book. When we talk about this, we must have to discuss few names before we start this. Even beside Hahnemann, his own work, the work of George Adolph Weber, the work of Ruckert, and the work of Jhar must be considered for this study. Boenninghausen and Jhar, they are the two names which is very frequently utilized when we discussed about the discussion of the first repertory, although we forget many times the repertory of Ruckert. But still, if we discuss about the Boenninghausen and Jhar, I would like to say that Dr. Jhar is 15 years younger to Dr. Boenninghausen, but Jhar was attached to Hahnemann 5 years prior than Boenninghausen. That means Jhar was attached to Hahnemann since 1825, and Boenninghausen was connected to Hahnemann since 1830. It was Julius Agedi who have treated Jhar from his illness, and after this treatment Jhar was very much convinced about this new science, and so Agedi introduced Dr. Jhar to Hahnemann, and since then he was very devotedly attached to Hanuman, and he helped in his many literary works. He was very much attached to Hanuman for the collection and categorization of the pathogenesis of Materia medica pura, later on the pathogenesis of chronic disease. He was engaged in many literary work. His involvement was so much intense that in one of the letter, or in writing of his wife, says that they were so much engaged in work that once she said that after completion of one work, she thought that now there will be a time for the family, there will be time for relaxation, but she was surprised that the next morning he took another task, and so the wait for this family time and leisure remains in a wait. This was the involvement of Dr. Jhar. Dr. Jhar and Boenninghausen was, at that time, it was considered to be a very contemporary relations between them. Many a times, few stalwarts of that time commented that Boenninghausen is not a medical person, he is a layman. But the work, dedication, contribution of Boenninghausen is not dependent on any certification from any medical world. This discussion, in our next class, we will discuss the history of this present work that we use, Boenninghausen's Therapeutic Pocket Book, how it got from repertory of antisoric, repertory of non-antisoric, and then this formulation, and the detailed philosophical background structure of this repertory, and then we will start actual how we should utilize this work of Boenninghausen in our day-to-day. In short, if I say this work, Therapeutic Pocket Book, here Boenninghausen has not used the word repertory, Therapeutic Pocket Book. And I would like to say, when we will start this discussion, I would like to emphasize this page. And here you will find that this book is in fact showing you two purposes. One is its utilization in bedside, and the more very important work is in the study of Materia medica. This part most of the time is missed, study of Materia medica. And so this book have two very important work. It is not just a repertory, it is much more than that. So hope in the next class, after its construction, philosophical background, we will start detailed study of each rubric and its clinical implication in future. Thank you very much.